Maybe one more time. Good evening. Welcome to the April 19th regular meeting of the Novi Board of Education. We thank you very much for being here this evening. If you'd all like to rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I will ask Mr. Mena. I am in reverse order. I guess I was supposed to roll call before Pledge of Allegiance, but somehow that just feels wrong to me. So if you would do a roll call for us, Mr. Mena.
Trustee Cook. Here. Trustee Hood.
Here.
Trustee Mena. Here. Trustee Murphy.
Here.
Trustee O'Connor.
Here.
Trustee Smith.
Here.
Trustee Stevenson.
Here. Terrific. Thank you all very much. We have not a super full agenda tonight, but we do have something very exciting, and that's our first item on our agenda.
We need
Dr.
to
Matthews.
approve the agenda.
Oh, I'm skipping ahead. Forgive me. I'm nervous in front of all these people we normally don't have anyone here. So anyways, we do need approval of the agenda. We do have a need to change the agenda. Dr. Matthews?
Thank you, Ms. Murphy. We need to remove one item from the action items, which is the Bosco property lease. We're not quite prepared. The city has returned the lease to us, but we still need to get some confirmation from our attorney before we present that to the board, and so we would remove that this evening to be considered at a later date.
All right.
Move to support as amended. Support.
Okay, it's been moved by Mr. Mena and supported by Mr. Cook that we approve the agenda as amended. I will call the question. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Okay, next we have our exciting thing this evening. Dr. Matthews.
Thank you, Ms. Murphy. Tonight we're very excited. We have an opportunity to recognize some of the students at Novi High School who worked so very hard over the course of the winter season in their athletic endeavors. And I would introduce Mr. Brian Gordon, our athletic director, to give the report this evening. Mr. Gordon.
Thank you, Dr. Matthews, and thank you, Board of Education, for having us here tonight. Another season, and I'll tell you what, it's almost like winter never ended. As you look at the weather that we've been dealing with our spring sports, it's like, we should have been playing hockey. We could have skied the other day. Just a crazy weather spring start. But we're here for the winter, and I can't say it enough. The kids, our coaches, the athletic department, everybody involved in athletics is extremely thankful and proud of what we've been able to accomplish this past winter season. On a personal note, I'd like to extend a personal thanks to several people. I'm going to start with our secretary in the athletic office, Barb McDougall. She works tirelessly and puts just a whole lot of time to make sure that the behind-the-scenes stuff is getting done. And without her, I don't know what we would do. And then also our co-op, Claire Pinkerton, who's one of our students and one of our athletes. She works extremely hard as well. There's a lot of things in athletics that go on that not everybody knows about. But like when an official doesn't show up or a bus doesn't get where it's supposed to go, you know about it. But there's a lot of people that make those things happen. And then, of course, to our Novi's number one fan, Nicole Carter, our principal. She's here tonight. She supports us unconditionally, even when things are not always going our way. But you can always be assured that Mrs. Carter is there supporting and standing for what educational athletics does, not only for kids in the school, but the entire community here in Novi. So thank you so much to all those folks. And then, of course, to all the administration and all the teachers and all the coaches that are involved in our programs each and every day, helping mold young minds, turning boys and girls into young men and young women. And as I say, that's what we are about. We're about developing kids, and that's what I think athletics really does do. So this past winter we had 323 male athletes. We had 315 female athletes. Now that's grades 7 through 12 because our program is all the way down to the middle school. We had 375 contests across the state of Michigan, and truly across the state of Michigan. We went about everywhere you can imagine, both at the high school and middle school level. While our teams are typically very successful from our wins and losses standpoint, our students excelled in the classroom even more. This year, we had 213 KLAA Scholar Athlete Award recipients, just from the winter. If you are one of those recipients, will you please stand? student athletes maintained a 3.25 GPA, a cumulative average, while participating in their all the different activities that they do at school. And it isn't just sports, but it's a whole lot of other stuff as well. Our teams also received recognition as academic all-state in the sports of swim and dive. They finished 5th in the state, because that just came out. If you saw that on Twitter.
Yeah.
Men's hockey was academic all-state as well. Our boys basketball team received quite a bit of accolades. Our boys team won their 3rd consecutive district championship. Our first ever, and I'll say ever again because it's in caps here, regional championship. They won the quarterfinal down at Callahan Hall, and then advanced to a Final Four at the Breslin Center for the first time in the history of this district. So congratulations to them. Now we also host a lot of stuff here in Novi with the MHSAA and with the KLAA. This past year we hosted KLA Cheer, KLA Division, and Conference Swim, as we always do. Pre-regional hockey, regional boys and girls ski for the first time. That was a lot of fun. District competitive cheer, district individual wrestling. We had about 325 wrestling matches in one day down in the field house. We had multiple cheer competitions. We also host the MHSAA hockey finals at USA Hockey Arena. In addition to these tournaments, our swim and dive also runs additional programs or additional tournaments throughout the year. Many of our student athletes excel in their sport, that's why they're here. They also received, many of them, as they received all-state recognition, each sport is unique in the way that they award that. This season we were proud to announce that we had 9 all-state athletes just in the winter. Wow. One particular athlete continues to receive more accolades. She's not a winter athlete. She's not even going to our school now because she graduated early and she's at the University of Michigan. And that's Erin O'Leary. Erin O'Leary is one of 6 finalists for the Detroit Athletic Club Michigan Athlete of the Year. So that will be in May, and that's a really cool ceremony down at the DAC. We also one of our winter athletes will be up for the Free Press Metro Detroit Athlete of the Year award, and that's going to be down in downtown Detroit. We now have 5 athletes that are up for it in their particular sport. So Travion Maddox Jr. is up for basketball. We have Luke McDonald for soccer. He's up for that. We have Erin O'Leary. We have Adriana Cannon for volleyball. And then Gabe Woodell is up for cross country. So we have 5 kids that are going down to represent us down at the Fillmore coming in May. Trayvon, was it May 18th? So let's get on to the kids. Enough of me talking. I know I like to talk a lot, but we're gonna keep them moving. This year, for the first time, we were able to do what I feel is the most purest and the most sport in its purest form. We brought together some of our special needs kids along with some of our regular ed students, and we put together a basketball team. Now the KLAA, in cooperation with Special Olympics out of Mount Pleasant, worked together where we had about 7 different schools, and we played a competitive basketball schedule with these kids. And those kids are here today. And what's even cooler is that on the day that we were down at the Breslin Center, we were supposed to play another unifying game against Sparta High School. So we made a phone call, and I said, our basketball team's playing at 2, and you got us scheduled at Jenison at 2. That doesn't work. Can we do something here? And he said, well, how about playing at the halftime of your game? So our kids got a chance to play in front of 10,000 people at the Breslin Center. Lots of thanks for that, because this, again, and I tell the kids this all the time, this doesn't happen out of coincidence. There's a lot of people who work hard so that these opportunities are there. And so a couple things. Our 2 coaches, Deb Thomas and Andrew Sari, could not be here today, but certainly coached those kids up, got them where they needed to be, and we're on the sideline just like Tom Izzo is, and down at the Breslin. So that was really, really neat. I also want to extend a big thank you to Jody Sakaitis, who's one of the classroom teachers. Yep, you can give her, right, you got that right, Robbie. She's a fantastic lady. She wears her heart on her sleeve, and I get choked up over this because she does such a fantastic job with those kids. And then certainly our special ed director, Shaili Patel, who is fighting every single day for these kids, all the time, wanting to give them as many opportunities as we possibly can. And certainly this, Robbie and Hunter kind of carved a path. And we're going to continue to do this, and we're going to expand this as much as we can. So I wanted to bring up Sydney. Sydney, can you come up? Sydney is one of our unified players. And so she has a few words that she'd like to share with you guys about her experience. Sydney, it's all yours.
Hi, I'm Sydney J. Maurice, and I'm a proud member of Novi Unified Basketball. Today, I am here to tell you my firsthand experience of being on the team. Going in, I knew exactly what to expect, a welcoming, friendly, and of course athletic environment. But there is much more. Every athlete played their absolute best and excelled throughout the season. Growing with each player has allowed me to see the type of person each player will become. Today, I would like to recognize some of these players. And you guys can come stand
Yeah,
right
I'll
next.
grab them, you read them.
Hunter. Michael. Elizabeth, who's not here with us today.
Daniel.
Eli.
See you later.
Daniel.
Robbie. Rick.
Daniel.
Jack.
Yes, yes.
Dan.
Yes, yes.
Fabian. Jana. And Matt Murphy.
Daniel.
Matt Heslop as well. I'm extremely proud of all of you guys standing here today. You guys played amazing throughout the season. Jadavian is a unified player as well. Oh,
Yeah.
we have Nyla,
Yeah.
Jeremy, Jessica, Scott, Jadavian, and Kyle. Thank you.
Have them stay there for a minute for pictures.
Oh, absolutely. As you can see, it's watching, if you got a chance to catch any of these games, it was, like I said, it is the most purest form of sport. Watching the officials who told me they would do this for free, everybody cheering on each other. When the other team scored, we cheered. When we scored, we cheered. Everybody cheered for each other. And this is, to me, this is what educational athletics is about. It's about involving as many kids as you possibly can in the most positive way, in a tremendous setting. And so, congratulations to these folks. Novi's inaugural first unified basketball team. You guys get some more pictures? All right, look to the cameras.
Fantastic.
All right, okay. You guys gotta have a seat.
Thank you.
Nice job.
Hey, Brian. While they're taking a seat, I just want to say something about the team. I got a chance to watch a couple of unified games and with my son. Excuse me. And just the other day, my son said, remember in the unified game where we got a rebound and we passed it to the other team so they could score. He says, that's what sportsmanship is.
Amen.
Yeah.
So
Amen.
you guys are a great role model on both sides of the team, and hey, keep it up. It was great to watch. We had a great time.
Yeah. Thank you.
Hear, hear.
Thank you so much. Moving on, that's a tough act to follow, but I think we got the perfect person to do that. This past year, we have the NoviAthletics.tv, the broadcasting network. A lot of thanks go out to this. As you know, in a couple of our different facilities, we have Pixel-Lock cameras, which automatically live stream our events, which is a really neat thing. This past year, we got a shout out from Mike Tirico from Monday Night Football. I was at a conference this past year, and I was able to bring up my laptop and watch us play basketball against Troy. And so, a lot of thanks for this. It was a really cool service to our community. It certainly gave other people who could not be at our events an opportunity to watch their sons and daughters or their grandchildren. If they're snowbirds, they're down in Florida or wherever they might be. But a really neat thing. So a lot of people went into making this happen. I want to thank two people in particular who worked very hard, and then a third who I think worked the hardest. Bill Roos, who's our PR guy here. Bill's the one who brought this idea to us. And I feel like I'm a salesman for Pixel-Lock because I've gotten easily a couple dozen phone calls from different schools around the state of Michigan saying, all right, tell me about it. I'm like, this is a cool thing. And so when Bill found it and Dr. Matthews said, yeah, let's go for it, great stuff. And then I want to extend a big thank you to Mr. Willie Mena, who this is his passion, baby. And he has worked his tail off to make this a real thing here in athletics and in our community. And so, Willie, thank you so much. You're up in that pipe. I will look out there, and there's the lights are on in the press box. I'm looking out my office window late at night, and I know Willie's up there. He's like a kid in a candy store when it comes to that stuff. So thank you so much for doing that, Willie. And then there's the man, the voice of nobody. Okay? Hikaru Kudo he's all over the place. I know he's on Twitter, he's on Facebook, he's on the radio. Mike Tirico's giving him shout outs. He is just an amazing young man. He's a guy who came in, I'm going to say about 4 or 5 months ago, and didn't know a whole lot about this, but just took the bull by the horns, and has made this his passion. And we have had so much fun listening to him and watching him on TV. It's just a really, really neat thing. Just not too long ago, I was up watching lacrosse, and so I'm watching the lacrosse game, and then I've got my cell phone, and I'm listening to him on the radio, and he's broadcasting our soccer game down the street. And so it's just a really, really neat thing. So, Hikaru, will you please come up here and be recognized? And he has honestly a few words to say.
Good evening, board. Good evening, everyone. As mentioned a moment ago, my name is Hikaru Kudo, current senior at Novi High School and a student of the Novi Athletics Broadcast Program, which is a part of the school broadcast program run by the MHSAA. First and foremost, this program would not have been possible without the support of the Board of Education, specifically Mr. Willie Mena, as mentioned a moment ago, and our athletic director, Mr. Brian Gordon. Without the support, this program would never have existed and would never have been able to take this opportunity. The school broadcast program was created by the MHSAA in the 2008-2009 school year as an extracurricular program which will broadcast athletic events throughout all 3 athletic seasons. There are currently 66 schools involved in the program, including Novi, which we joined back in 2015. The school broadcast program allows for students to capture, edit, and publish original content and stream live broadcast sports events on the NFHS network. Currently, the Novi Athletic Broadcast Network streams over the NFHS network with visuals from the Pixel-Lock cameras mentioned a moment ago from Mr. Gordon. An automatic camera which follows movement on the field of play for boys and girls across the spring season, as well as boys, girls, and Project Unified basketball back in the winter. We also stream free radio broadcasts utilizing Merdix.com and servers. Free radio broadcast sports include but are not limited to girls soccer, baseball, and softball for the spring, as well as any playoff games our varsity athletics teams may play. Yes, I will be going on for districts again. I already talked to Coach Pfeiffer. We will be going to first round of district for soccer on May 21st, I believe is the date. So far, since the founding of our broadcast program, we have broadcasted 50 games alone in the winter, that is boys, girls, and Project Unified basketball broadcasts. And thus far, we have broadcasted 12 games for the spring, covering at least one game for each sports team mentioned a moment ago. In total, we have covered 72 games so far this school year, and expect to reach over 100 games broadcasted by the end of the spring season. We are currently in the process of finding new recruits for the broadcast program next year. We'll be heading over to the middle school broadcast class, WMS, next Thursday to present this opportunity to incoming freshmen. There have already been a handful of students interested in joining the Novi Athletic Broadcast Network from the high school beginning as early as next week. One of the biggest educational experiences this program has to offer, besides learning about how to broadcast sports, is the valuable connections that I've made through this broadcast program. I have learned how to network and build connections with players, coaches, parents, administrators, superintendents, athletic directors, board members, and the list keeps going on. Early in the season, as mentioned a moment ago, Mike Trico, who was the host of the Pyeongchang Winter Olympics on NBC, gave us a shout-out during a Detroit Free Press interview and thanked us for covering high school athletics. I was honored last winter season to meet Justin Rose from WXYZ, as well as Joey from Mojo in the Morning, to talk a little bit about broadcast journalism, my plans for the future, and even connect with them on Twitter. I am very thankful for the opportunity the school district has blessed me with in this broadcast program, and I continue to develop my broadcast journalism skills each and every day. Although 13 years of Novi education will soon come to a close, this broadcast program will be something that will hold a special place in my heart, and will continue to support even when I am no longer a student at Novi. To conclude, I would like to once again thank the Board of Education and Mr. Brian Gordon for making this program possible. Thank you.
I mean, he was on a run with basketball. I mean, we had the Canton game and then the regional the district. Who would be in the district final? Canton? No. Northville.
Districts, regionals with Skyline.
Yep. Oh, yeah, that's right. Yep. That was a good one. I mean, the guy was on a run, and that's just awesome. So thank you so much, and thank you to everybody, and thank you to the board for supporting such an endeavor. It's just another opportunity for more kids to get involved, and that's what it's about. It truly is. Next, I would like to bring up our varsity swim captains. Gentlemen. As they're coming to the podium, our varsity swim team, as usual, as you know, academically, they finished 5th in the state with a 3-point, I posted it was like 8-something maybe, 8.4. But that was the girls. The girls were 8.4. You might have been like a 6.7. So I think the girls up there. So they're here to talk a little bit about their season. And so, gentlemen.
Good evening. My name is Brian Son, and I had the honor of being one of the captains of the Novi Swim and Dive team. I'm speaking on behalf of Coach P because he couldn't make it today. First of all, I'd just like to say I'm really proud of the team. We really graduated an amazing group of seniors. One of them actually swims at the University of Georgia, and he was an Olympic trial swimmer, so it was kind of a big loss. And many people, especially our rivals at Northville, expected us to set the bar low. But Coach P reminded us that we shouldn't focus on repeating what we did last year, rather that we should rewrite our own chapter. And our team knew that we had to succeed in our own way. But I think we really accomplished that. I mean, we defended our KLAA title without winning a single event. And then we ended up qualifying 10 people, 14 individual events, and all three relays at our state meet. And we didn't only succeed in the pool, but like Mr. Gordon mentioned, we were 5th in the Division I for all academic state this past season. So we decided that it would probably be inconvenient if we brought all 60 kids here today. So sitting over there is our state team. So we have Colin Quinn, junior, Max Robbins.
Would you guys mind standing up because we're short?
Colin's going to be a captain next year. Max Robbins, sophomore. Eric Halbith, senior. Michael Prine, sophomore. Do I have anyone else? Preston Harrell, junior, a captain next year. Daniel Chung, junior, also a captain next year. And Nathan Kinra, also a captain next year. This is Ben Robbins, Max Williams, and Jack McLaren. We were the captains this year. Thank you.
Thank you.
I was at that conference meeting because we were the host, and it was really unique because it just goes to show these kids. What I love about the swim program is that it's our entire swim program. It's our middle school, it's our girls, and it's our guys. When the guys are swimming, the girls are on the deck doing the timing. When the girls are in the pool, the guys are doing the timing. They support each other the way it should be done. And that's a credit to our leadership, because our coaching staff is one of the best in the state of Michigan. And that is reflected not only what they do in the pool, but also what they do in the classroom, where both teams are academic all-state and in the top 5 academically. So congratulations to coaches, kids, parents, everybody involved in swim. Next, I'd like to bring Mitchell Grinchpin, who was one of our varsity hockey captains, to talk a little bit about their academic all-state season.
Hi. Before I say anything that my coach prepared, because he couldn't be here today.
Coaching golf right now.
Coaching golf. I'd just like to say thank you to all the teachers at Novi, in addition to the coaches. They're really the ones that make everything work as it should. Speaking personally, I have over 200 hours of community service clocked in, and it just wouldn't be possible if I didn't have a hand reaching out whenever I reached out to my teachers and coaches. So now, I'd like to read a speech prepared because Coach Vellucci could not be here today. Dear Novi School Board members, I'm sorry I couldn't be at the meeting tonight honoring the boys hockey team. My other coaching duties and my son's 3rd grade concert have me missing the meeting. I'd like to acknowledge the 3 seniors that are here tonight, and unfortunately the other 2 all-state academic players could not be here today due to prior engagements. Alex Garoza, Joe Castellan, and myself. All 3 received all-state academic from the Michigan High School Coaches Association for having a cumulative GPA of 3.5 or higher through 7 semesters. The coaching staff is very proud of these 3 student athletes for this accomplishment. I also wanted to acknowledge that for the 5 years I've been coaching at Novi, our team of 21 student athletes had a team cumulative GPA of 3.15, in which we received all-state team academic. We ask a lot for each student athlete with their time commitment to the team. With our practices, off-ice workouts, and community service, it takes time management on the players' part to keep up their studies and sports. The coaching staff is very honored and proud of not only these 3 seniors, but the entire team. Our 10-15 record didn't reflect on the team we had. We were a young team that was led by our 3 captains, Algiri Rogosian, myself, and Alex Garoza. We lost close one-goal games to teams like D1 and D2 state champions, Brighton Bulldogs and Heartland Eagles. We lost 6 seniors and returned the majority of our team. The team would like to say thank you to the school board members for allowing the hockey team to go out on their own, on their out-of-town trips. This year we won both of our games at the start of the season in Muskegon. In early January, we went to the annual UP trip, in which I can get the papers separated. We unfortunately lost both games, but we competed in both games, and this trip is a great team bonding event for the boys. We thank you again for supporting these trips. I'd like to acknowledge the 3 senior players again, and I'd like to congratulate all other winter sport teams for their accomplishments this season. Go Novi, Coach Vellucci.
Thank you, Mitchell. Another good year for the hockey team. Academically, the strongest hockey team we've had academically, I think, since I've been here in my 6 years. I think we had somebody with a perfect 4.0, or close to a 4.0. Yeah, close. All right, we'll take it. It's higher than mine was, so that's great. All right, next, I'd like to bring up our varsity basketball coach, but before he comes up, I want to say a couple things. This year's basketball season was a little bit of it was like going to Cedar Point. We're going on a roller coaster. We had some highs, a lot of highs, and we had a few lows too. But a season is a journey, and this team certainly took us on a journey. Got off to a slow start. We had an injury to our point guard, and we had another kid who wasn't going to be eligible until the MLK Day, and then we had a team that had a lot of success the previous year, but had a lot of stuff still to figure out. And as I say, you're only as good as your seniors. And certainly this season and this team, it's very true. Because your seniors lead. Your seniors lead in the times when things aren't going so well. Your seniors also lead when things are going extremely well. So learning how to win the right way and then learning how to lose the right way is certainly an important trait when it comes to student athletes. Our coach is very excited. If you come and watch our games, he is up and down that sideline and he is working hard. But I do know this. He's one of the hardest working coaches that we have in our district. He certainly wears everything on his sleeve. He very much cares about his kids, not just as basketball players, but as young adults, and trying to teach them to make good decisions, do things the right way, and then to go on to later in life to be just tremendous people in their communities. And that's what we try to do in athletics. It's not about the wins and losses. And so, Coach Sadawi, would you please come to the podium?
Wow, cool, thank you. I'd like to just first introduce our team, and I'm going to have them stand up here, because I'm going to have them stand up here with me. So if we could have our guys come up. So we'll start with some of our juniors, Aryan Burma, John Prisby, come on up. And then some of the seniors, not everybody's here tonight, but some of our seniors that are here tonight, Austin McKay, Brett McKay, Blake King, Trendon Hankerson, and Travion Maddox Jr. So as Mr. Gordon kind of alluded to and kind of stole some of my thunder a little bit about the accomplishments this season, I'll start really, to be honest with you, about one of the things that he said and kind of gave me one of my points about adversity. And probably the thing I'm most proud of this season was not only did this team the core of this team battle adversity the way our season ended last year, but to put themselves in the position where they could get right back to that same position and then get further. So they met the challenges throughout the course of the season. And I talked to them at the end of the season last year in the locker room over at Walled Lake Northern after we lost, and told them it's never how you react to a situation, it's how you respond. And we would see the character of the team and how they responded this season, and they went beyond what a lot of people thought. So congratulations on that. And then, of course, just some of the tidbits. We started off 1-5, as Mr. Gordon mentioned. We finished 16-3. We had 17 wins in the season. For the second straight year, we beat a team in the Detroit Public School League, which is regarded as one of the top school leagues in the Midwest, beating this year Detroit Pershing, who was top ranked in Class C. We won our third straight district, and I'll point out again, all three against Northville. It's good to know that.
Yes,
We got to our second straight regional final this year. We won our first ever regional championship for Novi. Won our first ever quarterfinal game and advanced to the Final Four at the Breslin Center for the first time, where we got a chance to play in front of 10,000 people. Largely, of course, our student body. And it was really cool that they were able to work out, getting the high school students at the game. We also beat 3 other top 10 teams this year. We beat Canton, who was ranked 3rd in the state at the time at 18-0. We beat them twice. We beat Ann Arbor Skyline, that was mentioned, who was ranked 2nd in our regional final game. And then, of course, the top 10 team in Belleville in our quarterfinal game. 3 of those wins came in the last 3 seconds of the game. 2 of them at the buzzer, and 1 of them with 2.8 seconds to go. So talk about dramatic fashion. I definitely have a few more gray hairs. You can't see it because I got my hair cut recently. But I wouldn't trade any moment for anything for the moments that we experienced, both myself, these players, and my coaching staff, which I'll introduce in a second. Going back to the Breslin, I want to thank my staff and my players, and I mentioned this to them in the locker room after our game. When I started coaching about 15 years ago, I got a chance to go to the Breslin Center just as a treat, just to watch some of the games with the head coach at the time at Stevenson. And I remember watching the coaches on the sideline thinking, man, how cool would it be to be able to come out here and coach? And I want to thank my players again, because I've had dreams about it still so far, and for you guys to give me that opportunity, I want to thank you again for that. Our mantra, as you can see on my shirt and on a lot of their shirts, this year was to leave no doubt. We wanted to let everybody know that we played this year, that there was no doubt how we were going to carry ourselves both on and off the floor, how we were going to represent Novi, and we weren't going to leave any doubts in terms of losing the way we lost last year, and of course to try to get back to the places that we knew we could get to. So a lot of lessons learned. A couple individual honors really quick. We have Trendon Hankerson, who received KLA All-Conference for the second year in a row. He's also awarded third-team All-State from the Detroit News. And then Travion Maddox Jr., who was mentioned, will be attending the Detroit Free Press event, honoring the state's best athletes. He had a clean sweep. The Associated Press and both the News and the Free Press awarding him first-team All-State, which was a great accomplishment for him. My coaching staff, Kevin Hankerson, who's here. Kevin, can you stand up, please? I'm going to give him a round of applause. A lot of late-night conversations, a lot of film that I know he watched. He watched way more film than I did, that's for sure, in preparing our team. But just brought a fresh, approach to a lot of the things that we had tried to accomplish, and really I thought kind of helped us get over the hump, and was a huge addition for me and our team this year. Our parent support.
Maybe we should give his wife a round of applause then too.
I'm going there right now.
Okay, sorry. I'm just thinking.
You got me here.
Sorry.
Our parent support has been tremendous since I've been here at Novi. And Tricia Hankerson, along with Michelle King, have been just mainstays and really just two individuals that I can count on for anything, especially dealing with the kids day in and day out. They had everything covered, from team meals to, you name it, they had it taken care of. So Tricia, if you're around the corner there. Tricia, it's in my notes, okay? So
I was actually thinking of all the late night phone calls and film.
Oh yeah, true.
Not
yeah.
the rest of that.
Yes, absolutely, yeah. I should also thank my wife if she's watching. To everybody in the athletic office, a big thank you. Mr. Gordon and Ms. McDougall and everybody there that has helped our players and myself kind of keep ourselves organized. To Mrs. Carter and all the administrators at the high school for their continued support. To Mr. Mena. We had a lot of fun this year, and I think that broadcasting these games and the work that you put into that, along with Akari, just kind of made it extra special and allowed a lot of people to see such a special season and to hear a special season. Robbie Heil, of course, for being our H2O engineer, always being there for all the games. We appreciate that, Robbie. There you go. And again, the support that we got, especially during our run, it was really, really unique and fun, to see, and from the countless emails and messages and phone calls and voicemails, and to see pictures of viewing parties at the elementary school during our game at the Breslin Center, where they had the game live streamed, and I don't know if you knew that was happening, but they weren't doing anything academic for a little while. And it was just cool to see. And then notes being sent from teachers, inter-school mail that I don't know, that I've never met before, or that I've only had short conversations with, talking about how this team gave them something to cheer about, and it was just really special, and they loved following us, and it was surreal. It was just a fun time. So again, congratulations to our players, to our staff, and I want to thank the Novi community once again. So thank you very much.
All right, well, stay here. So I want to extend a thank you to these guys as well. I mean, they gave us a nice ride, a lot of fun. Sports can do a lot of great things. They build, like I say, they build character. They teach you some good things, and they can teach you some bad things too. We focus on the good. And this team, like I said, provided a nice trip for us, and they gave us something to cheer for. And a lot of hard work. And a lot of support from a lot of people. And like you said, our athletic booster club, it's one of the best in the state of Michigan, if not the best. Mrs. Hankerson is the vice president of the booster club. And so, where they're doing things for their own kids' programs, they're also doing something for everybody's programs. And to me, that's what community is about. And that is the power of sport. And that is the power of educational athletics. Because as I tell our coaches each and every day, you create memories for kids. It could be a good one or it can be a bad one. We want good ones. And it's not wins and losses. It's about going to team dinners. It's about having some sort of a bonding activity. The things that they remember, the trip to the UP. Games are games. But it's the life memories and the relationships that you build through sport is what's so powerful. So thank you to everybody. Thank you to everybody that supports us. We got phone calls from people that hadn't had kids in school in 20 years. And that happens all the time, not just in basketball. It happens all the time. That's how powerful this community is. And that's why you guys should be very thankful. You should be thankful for what this community has been able to provide and support you. As I tell you at our signing ceremonies, this doesn't happen out of coincidence. And so I challenge you, reach out to somebody and use those two words that we don't hear enough of, and that's thank and you. Because this doesn't happen all by itself. Thank you. Questions? Comments?
Go ahead, you can ask a question.
What can I help you with?
I would have the baseball, hockey, the tennis, basket, the football, the baseball, basketball, the volleyball, with the volleyball, I did the hockey, with the tennis, basket, with the baseball, a ball.
Nice. Love it.
He's a sports fan. I did understand that Coach Snowy got an award as well as his team.
He did.
So perhaps
He was the Metro North Coach of the Year. Am I right, Brandon?
Yep.
Are there other comments at the board?
Mr. Gordon's?
Oh, yes, and we know Mr. Gordon also got Athletic Director of the Year as well, so. Are there other comments from board members that you would like to make at this time? Mr. Cook? Or Mr.
No,
Miller?
I was just going to echo what you said. It was a very enjoyable year. I got to attend a lot more basketball games than I ever have this year, both boys and girls, and I'll tell you, I enjoyed every single one of them. It was just a fantastic time this year. It was just great. I don't know how long it'll be before we experience another season like this. So thank you, boys. Appreciate it.
Mr. Cook?
I just want to say thank you to all the student athletes. You're role models to the younger kids. You're role models to our unified team. You know, it's great that you can go out and do that. From ice hockey going up to Calumet, the birthplace of professional hockey. One of these years, I want to join that trip. It's a great time up there in the winter. I remember to see you guys every time that comes by. To our swim team, you know, you guys put in hours and hours at that pool and on the deck. basketball team. It's a great sport. I love it, and great job, Trayvon. Your grandma's a hoot. You know, I got to sit next to her at the semifinals, and she was fun. So everybody there, student athletes, role models for our younger kids. Congratulations on a great season, one and all. Thanks.
Fantastic. Mr. Smith?
Brian, I want to thank you and thank all the student athletes as well. I know that many of you played a role in supporting the Novi Educational Foundation this year at our pancake breakfast, which was unique. I want to recognize the community service that you put in. I heard, I think it was Mitchell say that you had 200 hours of community service. That's incredible. I also want to recognize Brian's son. Brian, in addition to, I didn't know you were the captain of the swim team, but Brian was one of the inaugural students to serve as a student board member for the Novi Educational Foundation. So I don't know where you found time to get all your work done, but you're not only great athletes, you're great students, and you're involved in the community, which is what I think, Brian, you were talking about, which is awesome. So thanks, guys, for a great job.
Other comments? Good. Okay, I just want to say this is one of our favorite things that we get to see our students and the athletes off the field as well, because we do want to acknowledge that the effort that you put in to not only be good students, but to put the time in to make our lives enjoyable, because we love coming and watching. I know that that some of the games this year, it was very tensing for, I think, a lot of us, those 3-second shots, and some of those I was like, are they leaving no doubt? But you came through, and it was fun, and I do think it drew the community together, and I do think that Brian's right. That's some of what community does with athletes. I hope that you will continue to take this on, those of you that are graduating, the life lessons that you learned as athletes, the joy of being part of a team. I think our unified team, I think you guys, quite honestly, I think you're good role models for us, because you are so good about caring about the person next to you, and whether or not, I just saw a couple times at those games where the ball kept going back to the same person until they made it in, and I love that. So I just want to say thank you. I'm glad you're enjoying it as much as we're enjoying watching, because it's been really fun, and it's joyful to see you guys out there experiencing, basketball and sport, along with some of the other players on the team that I think have enjoyed the experience as well. So I'm excited that that's in addition to the athletic offerings, and we look forward to hopefully seeing you guys back again. I don't know exactly what the award ceremony is with that, whether or not they have a big division playoff or anything, but I'm sure you'll keep us posted, because it's kind of evolving, I think.
It is growing. It is growing. We're trying to get the OAA involved as well,
which would be fantastic.
Which is the other league.
So thanks very much to all of our student athletes for the winter sports. I know our ski team as well is listed on here, that we had a student that got an all-state for that too, and that's we love to see that you're excelling in places outside of the classroom, because we're about creating the whole child, and educating the whole child, and creating opportunities for you guys. So you keep us going, and keep us looking at what other opportunities are there that we can continue to provide for students. So thank you again for being here. We are going to take a short break, because we understand there's a very important game going on tonight in Northville, and we think maybe some of you might want to head over there to the soccer game for the girls. So we will take it's 7:49 now. We will resume right at 8 o'clock.
All right. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you.
This is
just let them know. We're ready. Here's when you guys are. And we're back because they are around town. Thanks. Good. Welcome back. We are at the April 19th board meeting for the Novi Board of Education. And we have a next item on the agenda is our student board member report.
We welcome our student, ask you to introduce yourself and give your report.
Thank you. My name is Chris Oshana. I'm a junior at Novi High School. I will be presenting the highlights for this meeting. In academics, we would like to commend all of our students on a successful week of state testing. The month of May is fast approaching, and we extend the very best of luck to all of our students who are taking advanced placement as well as international baccalaureate exams in the days ahead. In student and teacher activities, the IB Art Portfolio Show reception took place this evening from 5:30 to 6:30 in the auditorium lobby. You're welcome to visit the show through this Saturday, April 21st. Our students are so talented and we're grateful for our amazing art teachers who inspire us. This year's school musical is Spam-A-Lot. Opening night is today and the musical runs through Saturday, April 21st. The cost is $15 for adults and $12 for students, as well as $10 for seniors and kids under 12. The Select Art Show is coming to Novi High School. It will take place on Friday, May 4th at 6 p.m. At the Novi Civic Center. Rock the Box concert will take place on the same day, Friday, May 4th at 7 p.m. In the Black Box Theater. And finally, we have our junior-senior prom coming up Saturday, May 5th from 7 to 11 p.m. That's at Suburban Showplace. Tickets are on sale for $75. And then, as Mr. Gordon mentioned, with the athletics streaming, it can be viewed at noviathletics.tv, and games are broadcasted live in the performance gym.
Great. Well, thank you. Any questions or comments from board members? I know I am looking forward to Spam-A-Lot. I've heard from people that it's fabulous. The musical, I don't know that anybody's seen it at the high school yet, but I'm looking forward to seeing that on Saturday night. And we thank you for coming, Chris, and being here and giving us the highlights. And to all our students, we also wish them success along with you as they finish up the year and take all those AP and IB tests. All right, terrific. Next, we have our consent items.
Comments from...
Excuse me. Next, we have our comments from the audience related to agenda items. This is the first opportunity for comments from the audience about agenda items only. We would ask that you would fill out a green card, hand it to Mrs. Holly, and then approach the podium, state your name. This isn't a time that we'll be responding, but we may direct one of the administrators to get back with you. Is there anybody in our audience who would like to speak about agenda items this evening? Okay, seeing none, we will move on to consent items. We have two major items, our approval of minutes and approval of field trips. I would entertain a motion.
I recommend that the Novi Community School Board of Education accept consent items A and B as presented.
All right. These are items that don't need any additional discussion. I will call the question. All those in favor?
Hold on, let's need a second.
Oh, I'm sorry. Been moved by Mrs. Stevenson, supported by Mrs. I saw your hand go up. I didn't say anything. I apologize. Okay, so I will call the question. All those in favor of approving the consent items as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Next is our action items. With the departure of Mrs. Glebzinski, I almost said Dr. Glebzinski, Mrs. Glebzinski, we have a position as an officer open. It is the position of vice president. I'm going to ask Mr. Mena to call everybody's name, just state who you would like to see serve in that position, and we will move on from there.
Mr. Cook.
Mena.
Mrs. Hood.
Mrs. Stevenson.
Mr. Mena. Stevenson. Mrs. Murphy.
Stevenson?
Trustee O'Connor.
Mena?
Trustee Smith.
Stevenson.
Trustee Stevenson.
Stevenson.
All right, so thank you, Mrs. Stevenson, for being willing to serve. So we will have some rearranging of the table next week, and we welcome you to the vice president position. Next are personnel recommendations. Dr. Matthews.
Thank you, Ms. Murphy, and I will turn to Mr. Kinzer, not quite doctor, but Mr. Kinzer, for the personnel report.
Thank you, Dr. Matthews. This evening we have a short report. First, we have two resignations. Christine Johnson, secretary at Village Oaks Elementary School, and Hannah Mertz, a teacher at Village Oaks Elementary School. We have a retirement, Helen Miller, who is an HR assistant here at the ESB. And we also have a leave of absence, a personal leave of absence for next year. That's Amanda Pirelli, teacher at Novi Woods.
All right. Are there any questions about our personnel? Actually, could I have a motion first? Please, Mrs. Hood.
I move that the Novi Community School District Board of Education adopts the personnel report recommendations as presented.
Support.
It's been moved by Mrs. Hood, supported by Mrs. Stevenson. Are there any questions or comments about the personnel report this evening? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor of accepting the personnel report as presented, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Same. Motion carries 7-0. Next, we have on our agenda, going to be very careful now, classroom furniture. Dr. Matthews.
Thank you, Ms. Murphy. Last week at the board meeting, we presented classroom furniture bids for purchase this summer. Ms. Minnick is here to answer additional questions if you have them. If not, we would recommend that the board accept the recommendation as presented.
All right. I would entertain a motion. Yes, Mr. Mena.
Yeah, I move that the district I move to support the district purchase of classroom furniture and that it be awarded to the companies listed above. I guess I have to read these, or are we good?
We're good.
On the motion, okay. Further, that the Assistant Superintendent of Business and Operations be authorized to spend the funds from the 2014 Capital Project Fund.
Support.
All right, it's been moved by Mr. Mena and supported by Mr. Cook. Is there any additional questions or comments about the furniture item? I know we had the opportunity to talk about this at our last meeting. Mr. Cook?
The disposal of the old furniture, what are we going to do with that?
We're still coordinating that with looking for potential interested districts in Oakland County, which is similar, well, which is what we did last summer. So I will have more on that at a later date.
Thank you.
Okay, terrific. All right, well, I will call the question. All those in favor of accepting the classroom furniture bid as presented, a recommendation as presented, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? All right, motion carries 7-0. Okay, the next item, because we are not discussing item D, is our information discussion item. It is the superintendent evaluation. It's the student growth model portion of that. I know Dr. Matthews gave us each some information about that, and we have that in front of us. I saw a couple questions that board members had sent to him that he responded to. Are there additional things that board members would like to discuss in regards to the student growth model?
So the student growth model that's presented for the board consideration for the superintendent evaluation contains 3 items. One is the student growth percentile from the MSTEP, which is the state assessment. And that would be 50% of the student growth. The second piece would be the NWA projected versus observed growth, which would count for 30% of the score, and then the Fontes and Pinnell, which is a reading assessment from fall to spring, which would account for 20% of the score. MSTEP's the state assessment, and we would receive a score from the state. The NWA is a nationally normed assessment in reading and math. We would score. We give that assessment to students in grades K through 10, and this provides data for 3,000 students in our district. And then Fontes and Pinnell is a content-specific in-class administered reading assessment, and it covers grades K through 4. There were some questions about the growth model relying exclusively on national and state data as opposed to internal assessments, and I provided the board with some information on that in an email earlier this week. And so if there's additional questions on this, I'd be happy to try to answer those tonight. This is for information and discussion. We would bring it back for approval at a later date.
Okay. Mr. O'Connor.
Just a couple questions on the scoring. Could you explain the scoring models for the NWEA and the Fontes and Pinnell? You've got the scoring with the rating of 4, 3, 2, 1. How do we come up with those? You know, the 53 to 66 and 40 to 52. What was the
we tried to. The rationale was that we created categories that that looked at those scores, the percentile rankings of those scores that would be at or above national averages for the 53 to 66 rating for highly effective. Effective is kind of the on grade level, 42 to 52 the percentile rankings, and then minimally and not effective are scores that are below grade level.
Yeah, okay. And that's for both of those?
Correct.
So it's based on the national, okay, great. Also, I had asked a couple questions, I just wanted to kick this around a little bit with the board. We don't include, you're proposing that we don't include an 11th grade score, and I don't care either way, but I'm just wondering if we've got data, what are the, the pros and the cons
Yep.
over not really including, because, my concern here is really, I know we have to use M-STEP, I know the state mandates and all that, but it really doesn't cover, the
Correct.
depth and breadth of the students where, what we've done with NWEA has been great, and it really covers a lot more of what we're trying to accomplish.
So the state does provide an 11th grade growth score. We could include it in the revised version I provided. I did suggest that we would use that 11th grade score. The 11th grade score is a little bit trickier than the scores in grades 4 through 8 because there's not a continuity between 9th grade, 10th grade, and 11th grade with that. But the state in their
within M-STEP or within
M-STEP. Yep.
What about could we use something with? And I'm just brainstorming here.
Yep.
Could we use something with NWA since it covers?
We don't give the test to 11th graders. We only give it up through 10th grade because in 11th grade those students are taking the SAT and also the state assessments, and so we didn't want to double dip those students in testing.
That's what I was missing. Okay. So you're proposing that we don't use 11th grade because of the gap in the M-STEP.
I would be open to using the 11th grade because the state does provide a growth score for that. And so we could include that with the M-STEP. And the model that I present here does include grades 4 through 8 and 11th in reading and math.
And you're comfortable with that?
I'm comfortable with that because the state does provide it. So I've reviewed the data from the state, and I'm assuming that they have calculated it and have a rationale for providing an 11th grade score.
Okay. My only comment on this, I think this is a great first start. This is really good, and it's very comprehensive. And I know this took a lot of time. I know it's difficult to do, especially since the state's been asking for this. One of the things that I'd like to see as this evolves is that we really try to get more involved with local assessments. And I understood your explanation of the proficiency versus growth. We've got to get to growth. I just we bang at this table all the time about local control and local control. And I just hate the idea that all this is being mandated and, the M-STEP, we have to live with it. Mm-hmm. I like the NWEA, but I just think the more we could get is we're building, more into the, the robust accountability system. I think the more that we can start developing our own local assessments, I just think it's closer to you and it's closer to how we can measure our kids.
I would agree, and Dr. Weber and Mr. Dinkelman and I have had multiple conversations about how we can create authentic growth scores from our internal local assessments, and that's something we're looking at now that the state's moving towards, we believe, a 40% growth score for 18-19. Just one caveat, there is proposed legislation that keeps it at 25%. I'm assuming that that's not going to move forward, but with our state legislature, sometimes you never can tell. But
there's election in November.
That's right. Assuming it goes to 40%, half of that 40% will be mandated by the state, and then the other half will be our local assessments, and that will give us a kind of a lever to really improve those local assessments to measure growth.
And I'm not against NWEA. I mean, I think it's much better than M-STEP. I just think the more we can localize it, I think the better.
I would agree with you.
Mr. Cook.
Yeah, I agree with Mr. O'Connor. This is a great start. We kind of pushed it pretty hard to get this, and I really appreciate it. For years, we've been told that the growth will be a three-legged stool. 3 legs being national, state, and local assessments. Looking at this and the amount of students that they cover, those legs are definitely uneven.
They are.
like to find a way to even them up. You know, if we could use PSATs or scores or something like that, you know, those standardized tests to fill in some of the gaps, that would be great. I'd also like to see, you know, if we take where we were the last 2 years, because we have M-STEP data for the last 2 years, and see where this would have put us each one of those 2 years.
Okay.
And see where we're trending. That would be great too. You know, like I say, if we can get those 3 legs, you know, equal, get some ELA covering all grades, get some, you know, the math covering all grades, both local, state, and national, that would be great. You know, you know, I've been hearing for years, we need the 3-legged stool, but you know, when you put it there, it's, you know, falling away from the cow, I can't quite milk it.
Okay, that makes some sense.
Mr. Mena?
I do. I appreciate getting this as well. The only thing I would ask, if you can go back and check, the scoring on the bottom here doesn't map to the scoring that we use for the superintendent evaluation. Highly effective, effective, minimally effective, so if you can kind of take a look at that and have those kind of match up, that'd be great.
Okay, I will do that. So this was for information and discussion tonight. We'll bring this back.
I'm sorry, before you launch into that, because I do want to ask, I mean, I hear the points my fellow board members are making, and I certainly would concur with some of that. I guess the other, you know, I don't want to add tests to what they're already taking.
If we can create
something based on some of the things we're doing. And my other question, and this might be for you, Dr. Weber, I don't know for sure, but the standards-based grading that they're moving to at the high school level, does that help us to be able to measure growth more accurately than achievement? I mean, I shouldn't think that they're moving to, but some teachers have embraced that. Does that help with that piece of it, or not so much?
The connection would be an indirect connection in the sense that the hope for SBG and SBL, standards-based grading and standards-based learning, is that we allow students to have more opportunities to learn. So when it does get to those more high-stakes assessment pieces that this focuses on, that there would be a help there. And when we talk about building our internal assessment measures as well, one thing that's interesting is the state has retreated from their notion of assessing every subject as the legislature thought they were going to do when they came out with this, because what they found is that is very, very difficult to assess every subject, every grade. So take, for instance, physical education, take art, and so on. So as we build this, being very mindful of the fact that whatever local assessments that we have, and we have many more than we've ever had, I would also suggest that the board and the superintendent take a look at narrowing that bandwidth as well, just as the state has found, so we don't get into something that took the state, I think, Dr. Matthews, 3 or 4 years to learn, that while it was, it seemed like a very auspicious goal in the beginning there, it's just something that wasn't attainable.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good caution. Thank you. Other comments or questions from the board? Mr. Cook?
Oh, is everybody else? The other thing that I forgot to mention before was, you know, we're talking more and more about development of the whole child. So where do we stand on the development of some sort of emotional social growth model?
I think
could be added to this eventually.
I think by the end of this year, this school year, we'll be able to come to the board and identify a measure that's been used successfully in some other districts that measures social emotional growth, and we would be able to implement that starting this fall.
Is it additional testing?
It's a little bit, but I think the students wouldn't feel it because it really is going to deal with kind of social emotional issues as opposed to math problems and those kinds of things. So, and we may be able to connect it to our current student survey that we give as well. And so, Dr. Weber and I are having conversations about some systems that other districts have used successfully, not in Michigan necessarily, but nationwide. And we think there's some hope there for us to create a measure that we can use here in Novi. Because we haven't forgotten about that, because we know the board's very interested in that.
I think as we look, oh, sorry, go ahead, Mr. O'Connor.
So next steps with this, we'll bring it back for action item, and then this will be incorporated in. But we can still use this model for this year's
Yes, we can.
evaluation?
Yep.
Okay, so
Yep.
we can just plug
And,
it in.
and as you mentioned, Mr. O'Connor, I think this will be an evolving kind of measure that we have as we get better and better at measuring growth over time of our students.
Okay, so what I heard is that we need to double check the scoring piece of
Yep.
that to make sure that
Yep.
meshes with it. And Mr.
So then we bring this back and we vote on it as an amendment to the superintendent evaluation.
Yep.
Because other than that, I don't believe we really would have to vote on
Yeah, I don't
this
think
being
so.
used.
Right. I think that's where it would fit.
Okay. Comfortable with that?
I have a
Mrs.
couple
Stevenson?
questions, and I'm not quite certain how to ask these yet. When we're scoring you on the student growth model, is it over a cohort? Because I don't want you to get penalized for students that are newly coming into the district who may be deficient in some of these areas. And if we're just looking at 1 year, one picture in time, that's not equitable, I don't feel. That's my opinion. Or are we looking over a cohort of time?
We're going to look over a cohort at a time. We're going to match with NWA. We're going to look at 3 years worth of data. So if a student hadn't been here for all 3 years of those tests, then their score would not be used. So we'll look at the scores of students who've been here in those cohorts. So for NWA, it's going to be 3 years of data. For Fontes and Bell, it'll be 2 years of data. And for the information from the state, it's 2 years of data as well. And the information from the state doesn't include students new to the district.
Okay, thank you. What about our special ed scores that go in there too?
Yep, they're included in, we test all of our students with these assessments. There's a small percentage of students that don't get the NWA because of their IEPs, but the vast majority of students take all 3 of these assessments.
Okay.
If the board, oftentimes the best thinking you do about a subject is when you leave the meeting, and you're driving home or you're thinking about it at home. If you have additional questions and want additional information, please don't hesitate to contact me, and we can certainly have those conversations either here at the board table or in conversations over the phone.
And if there's enough discussion or enough additional questions, we could certainly have it on for discussion again
Correct.
before we approve it.
Yes, we can.
So I think that if you do leave here and you think, oh, I didn't, this got brought up, get the questions to Dr. Matthews, we'll see and assess how much additional information might be necessary before we bring it back for action.
Do we have a schedule set up for the rest of the year in terms of the evaluation steps and when we're going to meet and all that, since we're going to make this now an amendment into his?
Yes, we do have those dates set up, and I'll share those with the board tomorrow in the week.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Next, we have our second opportunity for comments from the audience. This is an opportunity for anyone to speak to the board about anything within our jurisdiction. We would ask the same, that you give a green card to Mrs. Holly, if you haven't already, that you'd step to the podium. Feel free to address us. This is not a time that we'll necessarily interact, but we will listen and then perhaps direct some of our administrators to get back with you about the issue. Is there someone that would like to speak? We do limit your time to about 5 minutes. Just to give you some idea, and Mr. Mena will let you know when there's a minute left. Thank you.
Thank you for having me tonight, Superintendent Matthews, board members. First, I want to start off by saying that I've lived in Novi for 10 years, and we love the schools and the education that my children have received. And I have one in 11th grade right now and one at U of M. And so I love the schools. That's not why I'm here today. I'm going to play a video for you. This is what I'm hearing. It's starting to get dark. Actually, I was inside with the door closed and heard it. You get the idea. It's a baseball game going on. Sounds like fun. And those kids were having fun. However, there was a little problem. That field is located right behind my home. I live in Walden Woods. And I do have huge concerns about the field that was built there 2 years ago. Here's some history. We bought our home 10 years ago. I'm a little nervous, sorry.
That's okay.
And when we bought our home, it was in the winter, and they were just putting the, finishing up the plans for the addition on Parkview to the gym. They were taking down the baseball field, and our home was empty that we bought it, but it was vacant for a year. I now know why, because there was a baseball field there. But they took it down, so we had 7-8 years there. We had the field behind our home. We love living by the school. We've never, ever had an issue without the elementary school or the students there. It's only when there are teams, organized teams, that are playing baseball there. When we heard that that you were going to build another field there, I contacted I think a superintendent or assistant superintendent at the time, Steve Barr, and we had a couple conversations. And he told me, don't worry, it's baseball's growing. We have to have this field. And I didn't want to, argue with that. He also said baseball's a short season, only Little League, it's only practices, no games, and that field was desperately needed. Well, baseball is not a short season. It's already started. We've had a couple practices already. It's April until October. What you heard, that was October. And that was the evening. It was 9 o'clock. It was already dark. They were there Father's Day. I've talked to Jeff Muck. I've talked to Mr. Stee. And very little has been done about it. And as you could hear, the scrimmages are just as loud as games. Usually there are 3 fields back there, and we were told the third one needed to be built. However, I walk my dog back there all the time. Only really 2 fields one field's always used. You can guess which one that is. There are 2 fields that are sometimes used, and rarely are all 3 fields used. The one field that's rarely used, it doesn't have a big of a fence, and it's the one that's further away. It would actually be the better field if they would use that one because it doesn't back up to the homes, but it's rarely used. It's not as glorious or grand as the one by my home. Neighbors have reported that on the weekends the kids are there so long they urinate in the tree line. The boys do. There was a neighbor that told me that. She was upset about that. Sometimes baseball starts at 8 in the morning in the summer. And when our windows are open, we're woken up by that. A lot of times the noise is so loud we can't have company. It's hard to have a conversation out there. Like I said, we had it Father's Day. My daughter was trying to study for the ACT on Thursday, and she has a room on the back of the house, and baseball was so loud she could, she could hear it. It's hard for us to enjoy our home. And I'm just asking for your help. I don't know where else to turn. I've written letters, I've written emails, and I just really want to work with somebody to, come up with an equitable solution. I don't want to take baseball away. I just want the baseball teams to be respectful to us, the district to be respectful to us, come up with some solutions. That's a win-win. I know we're a Leader in Me district. Win-win for everybody involved. We've looked at other communities and how other communities have handled fields that might be close to homes. There aren't that many that we've seen. I know I've seen fences put up. In Farmington, there is a field there that by a school that my daughter used to attend before we moved to Novi, and they limited the times that the field was used so the family could have their barbecues and family time in the evenings. So anyways, thank you for listening to me, and I'm hoping that I will hear from somebody, and I'm happy to work. I don't want to take baseball away. I love sports. But just a solution that's equitable for everyone and respectful. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Do we get name and address?
Thank you. Yes, Mrs. Holly has her card with her name and an address on it, right?
And a phone number as well.
Great. Okay. So we've got your contact information. Thank you. So we will look into that
We will look
and
into that.
see what we can figure out about that. And next we have our superintendent's report, Dr. Matthews.
I just have 2 brief things that were also mentioned in the student report. One is the IB and Portfolio Art Show that's going on in the lobby of the high school auditorium. I would encourage all board members to go and see that art show. It is truly stunning work that our students are able to do. and our teachers are very proud of the work that our students have done, and so I would encourage you to go see that. And then also I would encourage the board to go see Spamalot that runs through Saturday. The students have put in a lot of work on that, and our students do a tremendous job in the performing arts, and so I would encourage the board to go see that.
All right. Mr.
Quick
O'Connor.
question. Did you get any feedback on the Alice presentation, since we were all here interviewing board members last week? Did you get any feedback on how that went?
I did. There were about 60 people at the Alice
okay.
presentation, and
You mean they didn't want to come and listen to the board interview?
They didn't know. And the parent responses after that were very positive.
Okay, good, thank you.
That's the Alec one. How about the Angst movie?
The Angst movie had about 75 parents
okay.
participate, and the movie was about an hour long, and then they had a panel discussion with some of our social workers from the district, and the reports that we received back were very positive on that as well.
Great. Both great things going on while we were here. Mr. I was going to ask for administrative
No,
reports. Did
no,
you
I
have
don't
some?
have
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Okay, so next we have our administrative reports. Do you have anything to report this evening, Ms. Minnick?
Yes, Mother Nature continues to wreak havoc on our district. This week, I appreciate everyone's patience while Orchard Hills was closed, but behind the scenes, I want to thank Mike Dragoo for all the work that he did to get that building back up and running. I also want to thank everyone for their patience while the buses were running somewhat late on Tuesday because of the horrible weather we had that morning unexpectedly. And but I appreciate all the drivers driving so safely. We didn't have any incidents. So kudos out to our transportation staff.
Great, thank you. Mr. Kinzer.
Yes, I just wanted to share with you some impressions of the job fairs that we've attended over the past 5 days. We were at Oakland Schools on Saturday, 3 of our principals and I, and then at Michigan State on Monday, also a team of 4, and then at U of M today, a team of 3. We'll be at Eastern Michigan tomorrow, and we really have identified many high-quality candidates in all different roles. So I'm optimistic it's going to be a very successful hiring season.
Terrific. Thank you. And Dr. Bubber.
Yes, yesterday we had representatives from Novi High School, Katie Dinkelman, Principal Nicole Carter, go to Haven's main place, which is in Pontiac, Michigan. And I think the board's familiar with Haven. If the community is not, it's a very much what it says, a haven for families who are fleeing domestic and sexual violence and assault. So families move in there, find a stable and safe place to be. But they also offer a tremendous amount of programming in that sort of prevention. Fortunately, 3 years ago, the NEF got behind the Redefine program. What the Redefine program is a multi-session leadership development course for high school and college-age young men. This program provides young men with skills to help end gender-based violence and to create healthier and happier emotional lives. Last year, we started the Spark program, which is an 8-week program for middle school and high school girls focused on empowerment and self-esteem. Through discussion, films, and activities, girls learn about navigating the world as young women, creating boundaries, forming healthy and supportive relationships, and achieving personal goals. So we often talk about how we're going to evaluate our superintendent or our community schools on data, test scores, and things like that. I called Ms. Dinkelman this morning on my way to a training, and I asked her what was the best part of the Haven piece. And this is going to be something I'm going to tell you that you're not going to find on a performance rubric or metric. This is when a community gets together and realizes that we need to invest in opportunities for our kids to learn these things. So in one of those programs, one of the children was able to go home and have a conversation with their parent after the first session. In that conversation, the parent and the child came together and understood that what they were talking about were things that the parent had faced. After every single session of that 8 weeks, the bond between that child and that parent grew stronger and stronger as that truth emerged. And the parent was able to talk about these issues and these pieces. I would contend that that single interaction right there, that ability for a parent and a child to come together and identify something that was troubling and difficult, is something that we as a school district need to be exceptionally proud of. and that we have organizations like the NEF, like Principal Carter, people like Principal Carter and Katie Dinkelman who stepped up and organized these events. Haven has come into our high school and educated our staff around reporting, educated our kids around these issues, but it's these two programs of depth that really shine a light on what makes our community school district exceptionally special. The Detroit Lions were there yesterday as well. I know they interviewed our kids and shot video. The folks at Haven said that they have never had a group come through of students that had the impact that our kids did. So it's a heartfelt thank you for that, and for the ability to know that as a community school district that serves people from birth to the end of your life, basically, that we do far more than what might show up on an M-STEP test, something like that. I know Robert Baker's here in the crowd tonight from the high school as well, and Robert's been very supportive of these programs as well. So thank you to the NEF, thank you to our high school administration, thank you to that mom for having the courage to have the conversation that she did, and for hopefully helping this world be a bit better place.
Good things for us to be reminded of, Dr. Weber. Thank you. Next, we have our committee reports. I don't know that we've had any committees since the last time we met. We do have a Board Governance and Policy Committee meeting next week to go over policy stuff. Yep. So we're working our way through it. It's a grind, but we are working our way through it. So that will be
a highlight.
You know, sometimes it is my highlight, which is kind of frightening. I just, I don't know that there's other board communication from people. I know that there's some activities going on. Mr. O'Connor.
Yeah, I want to let the board know that on Wednesday, I attended a work session up in Lansing. It was sponsored by the Institute for Public Policy and Social Research. And it was interesting because it was on career and technical development, and I thought it was I was going to get a big lecture on the trades and you know, the plumbing, the welding, the electrical, the construction. Not that that's not important, but interestingly, the focus was on IT, computer sciences, and advanced manufacturing, which is right within our wheelhouse. So it was interesting that they were talking about how horrible it was trying to attract computer science teachers, and it's just all over the state. You know, it's something certainly that we need to look into. But what I thought was really interesting about it is that they had 4 pillars. They were talking a lot about the Marshall Plan and the dollars that are going to be part of that program. And one of the pillars was the idea of exploring at the high school level. And I had to smile because it was similar to what we're doing, you know, with the Providence Hospital program. I hope that we can really start looking and expanding that as we get more involved with, you know, STEM and the advanced robotics. The other thing that I had to laugh at, I thought was interesting, is they talked about how the TED program is really, they're having conflicts with the State Board of Education and the state, because everything we talked about, this accountability and the test scores and the testing and the grading, and all they talked about was project-based learning. And the fact that if we're going to really do this through advanced manufacturing, that we really have to look at making sure that we have skill competencies as we move ahead. You know, not that the grades weren't important, but that skill competency. So I felt good when I was listening. There's a long way to go with it, but I really think that we need it as we look into, you know, what we're doing with our budget next year and in the future years. We really have to look at this advanced manufacturing. We've got a lot of businesses in the, you know, in that I-275 corridor that can support us, and I just think it's a sweet spot if we're really, you know, going to fulfill our vision of developing, you know, students, you know, with a world-class education. So it was a good seminar.
Did you bring back some materials or anything that we could?
Not really. There were a couple of handouts with the speakers. I can get those to.
Maybe get them to Mrs. Holly, and she could get them to us before, so that the board can have whatever information that is available.
One other quick question. Are we going to post the videos of all the?
Yes. Those are finally spooled and
So
ready to go. We believe they'll be up tomorrow.
Okay, good. All the interviews and the meeting. Good. Thank you.
All right. Other board communication, Mr. Cook.
I mentioned it last week, but the 503 Frog Course is competing at Worlds. That is April 26th, 27th, and 28th down at Cobo. If you can't make it down there to see it, watch it streaming online. Just look up first competition, and you'll be able to find a streaming link, I'm sure. Number of different fields competing, so, or I should say, competition fields. There are different competition fields, so you pretty much have to search around until you find which one Team 503 is on. I'm saying that now because I do believe next week is a working meeting, so we won't be streaming that meeting. So.
We have a work session on the budget next week. So, yes, and I have watched before online, and it's pretty exciting even watching it online. I just have to say, I was surprised. But I think it'd probably be better to be there in person. I will just say, there's a lot going on this weekend for the high school. Not the art show. I love that they've teamed that now with the musical, so that people that see the musical can also see the fantastic art projects. I think what they did that 2 years ago, and I just thought it's brilliant. So I'm looking forward to that. And then the Athletic Boosters are having their event tomorrow out at Walnut Creek. I think tickets are still available on their website as well. So that's another big fundraiser for them that they're hosting at Walnut Creek. Are there other things that the board's aware of? I know those are a lot of high school things. Okay, terrific. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
It's your first full meeting, you should have the honor.
I'd like to make a motion that the school board adjourn our meeting this evening.
I'll support that.
Okay, it's been moved by Mr. Smith. He's on the books now, and supported by Mr. Cook. We thank you for, I will call the question. All those in favor of adjourning, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries.
Everyone supported your
7 to
first motion.
7-0. 1 for 1. You are Mr. Smith.